All right, Masters of Horror Season 2, Episode 4, sounds like...
Murder? Death?
So, sounds like.
Sounds like.
This was directed by Brad Anderson, who directed Session 9 and The Machinist, and I'm a huge lover of the film Session 9.
Yeah.
So,
Me
I
too.
was quite looking forward to this, and it's not that great. Yeah.
It's definitely Session 9-y feeling in some ways to me.
Because somebody's like in some like because of what? Because of the inner mono?
The main character sort of being compelled to do something, that maybe is or isn't like his mental state causing it,
I guess.
it had some faint vibes of Session 9, not 100% or anything. I just sort of felt it a little.
I mean, Brad Anderson definitely has that feel to his films of the main character's sanity slipping. Right, whether it's Session 9 or The Machinist or whatever, he definitely likes that protagonist to be mentally unstable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, as far as the story goes, yeah, I mean, any sense, like one of your five senses dialed to 500 would be horrible. Like, there's a reason why our senses are the way they are, right? Like, I can't think of any sense being heightened by 100 times what it's supposed to be would be good.
No, and I do have to say that I like in this episode, or in this Masters of Horror, that I did like the focus on the sensory overload, because that's actually, it is something that happens to me, and sound is definitely a trigger.
Yeah.
Where, like, especially if I have, like, a headache, or I'm getting a migraine, or just when I'm getting really overwhelmed in public, sounds become so heightened, and it's so uncomfortable. So I really appreciated the portrayal of that in this. I felt like I could really relate to it, and I do think that, like, yeah, like, if you had it dialed to 5,000 any sense, like, you would do pretty much anything to get it to stop.
Sure.
Because there's, like, that's not, like, life. That's not an existence at all. No. It's funny that we can, like, manage life in the absence of certain senses. Like, if you go blind or deaf or mute, like, you can still kind of, you can function, of course. Versus, like, in this situation, which is obviously not a real life thing, I don't feel, but, like, if it was heightened so much, like, it would just be unbearable.
Being mute has nothing to do with your senses.
I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, though. Like, you can't. You couldn't function. I mean, people are probably like, oh, well, what about sight? What if I could see 500 times better?
Oh, God.
I'd be like, you could see, like, microbes on people's freaking, like, the bacteria in their eyes.
Oh, no, on their eyelashes.
Oh, my God, that would be horrifying.
That'd be awful.
It's like, you'd see everything. You could see, like, the bacteria on your hands,
no.
right? Like, oh, my God,
no.
The sight might be the worst one.
Yes.
So I don't think that's a good one. That would be, like, eagle eye vision or something. Like, no, I'm talking about, like, magnify. Because what he has in this movie is like supersonic.
Yes.
Right? He's all... No, this would be horrifying. So
horrible.
That the concept, right, of it, I just don't like the execution as much. Like, he hears his son's heart murmur or whatever it is, some heart defect, and he's just too late.
Yeah. Right?
And so now he's blaming himself. Now, I think one of the problems I have is like, and some people just don't ever ask for help, I guess. But like, if you had these kinds of senses, and it doesn't seem like his senses are that bad until his son dies, and this like elevates things because of his stress level or something. But he does hear his son's heart issue, and that's before things are bad. So has he been living like this his whole life? And now that he's irritated, it's like expanded.
No, I got the impression it happened when he found out his son had a heart.
But he wouldn't have been able to hear his heart condition unless he had that supersonic hearing.
I guess you're right.
I can't hear your heartbeat.
I mean, you can hear heartbeats.
No, not from here.
Yeah, but he
He's
was
sitting
like right
next
here.
to him.
He was like, no, he was like bending down by his chest. At least that's what I thought, but you might be totally right.
But
and
even
honestly,
so,
it doesn't. Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you're right, and maybe it does come on after. Even if it does, I don't really care. But yeah, you're probably right. That would make sense, right? After the death of his son, but it's not even after the death, right? It's when he's like waiting in the room,
hospital.
and he's like, stop, and then his heart, his son dies, and then he starts to blame himself. Right? It's like grief, which is the main focus of the episode. Is like his grief. But I don't know. I don't like him, and I don't care. Like, even though he lost his kid, which is terrible, and I don't wish that on anybody, I just don't care. There's nothing about him that is interesting to me. I think that's the episode's main failure, is that they don't get me invested in this guy's like life or character, even in like oh my god, he's so villainous, or like, oh my god, he's very
bland.
Yes.
Like, I felt the same way about him too. I liked his performance when he was like freaking out and stuff, but I think the way the character is written is that and I do think he's written that way intentionally. I don't think it's a mistake, but he is kind of like closed off and aloof and like contained within himself.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think it does make for a boring character in this case, because we don't really get to know him very well. All we know about him, in the beginning and most of the episode or most of the movie is just he's got supersonic hearing and that causes irritation for him. But yeah, I don't know. I like you. I liked the idea in this, but I did not like the execution as much. And him going to ask for help is definitely something that I feel like should have been addressed. Like, he should have tried to go to some specialist who was just like, well, it doesn't, you're not hearing anything too different or whatever, right? Like, giving him some like write-off excuse that he's like, I'm not getting help from the professionals. And also, I feel like he would have deafened himself sooner.
Even if he didn't deafen himself, he could have went and saw a hearing specialist.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Who you can, like, why not wear earplugs all the time? Or
sure,
why not try to get like a hearing aid in reverse where it lowers sound for you or whatever? Like, so that kind of stuff, that's just horror movie logic.
Of course.
The person just goes along with it. And in most things, we've talked about this before. When you're not liking something, you start nitpicking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, if I was enjoying the episode, I wouldn't be like, why does he need to just get this fixed?
Right.
So, that's one of those things. But, also, I didn't find it all that interesting of the career that he was attached to for his ailment. Like, working at a call center, like, okay, for instance, the very first call that he listens to with his supersonic hearing, that he needs to be able, like, he has some sixth sense because of it, right?
Yeah.
The guy's on the phone, and you can tell he's getting irritated with this woman who can't figure things out. He literally cuts the guy off in the middle of him saying fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, are you fucking stupid? Like, and he cuts him off right as he's about to say it. Then he calls him up into the office, and he's like, yeah, I have really good hearing. I can hear it. And the guy's like denying it. Like, I wasn't going to blow up. I'm like you literally caught him in the middle of cussing out a client.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need supersonic hearing for that.
No.
Right? So, like, it would have been better served if he was working for, like, if he was on a submarine and he was needing to be the guy listening for torpedoes. Or if he was, something like where his hearing was actually being utilized, right? But he wasn't able to keep it under control.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's an asset because of his hearing, and they know of it, but then, like, they don't care. Or, like, maybe the government does make him something that is able to, condense or compress down the levels of sound.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm thinking of?
Those all sound right, but muffle?
Muffle, that's good. Whatever. And then, you know, he's out there, he's trying to do something for them, and then whatever he has on breaks. And then he's like trying to get back, and his hearing is just killing him, right? Because it's so loud and it's so intense, right? Something where his hearing is like part of the mission, and like he can take it off, and he can hear these, like, you can hear, like, you know, bugs, little legs rubbing together and stuff, and he has this amazing hearing, and they could utilize that,
sure,
right, very well. And then if like he had something dampening is the word I was thinking of. If he had something that was dampening the sound, and then it like broke on him, and then while he was like trying to get back to the place that could get him a new thing, he was like dealing with all of all of his past traumas and what he's went through, right? And then the sound around him is collapsing. I could write this way better. Like, I really could. And I mean, I've put like 2 seconds of thought into it, but I could come up with a much better script of how to incorporate this hearing thing.
Yeah.
Right? Or like he overhears things that are devastating to his life, right? More secrets.
Yeah.
Right? Where he finds out something he shouldn't know because of it, right?
Sure.
And then he's being hunted or something because he knows information that he shouldn't, or something. But there's just nothing interesting going on around his hearing, like what job he has, what he's hearing. All that stuff is just kind of like, it's only there to expand on the fact that he's in pain.
Yeah.
And then I don't really care about him and his wife's relationship, or his neighbor, or his coworkers. When he's like, you know, his son dies, and so he's trying to make his other coworker like a son to him, and then the son, like the coworker reports him for being weird or whatever, and it's like, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Like it goes from like he's in pain to he, you know, and I did really like the ending with like the maggots in my wife's face and shit. That looked gnarly.
That was really gnarly.
And let's point out the fact that if you cut off your ears, you don't stop hearing.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny.
Hear,
I was like, wait a minute.
You know, it doesn't. You don't hear the same, right?
Sure.
But you'd hear. It's just that your ear, it reflects the sound into it and localizes things so you can know where sounds are coming from, and it does other things, but it just, if you cut your ears off,
doesn't make you deaf.
It doesn't damage the drum, right? The eardrum, where you're actually taking in the information.
Yeah, I was confused by that. I was like, didn't he need to like, he needs
to
stab something in there to actually damage it? But yeah.
Watch the episode from Tales from the Crypt, where the guy's hearing stuff, and then he deafens himself by putting stuff in through his ears. That would deafen you. So, anyways, that's silly stuff. I wasn't into it.
Me either.
Yeah, and that's that. I don't think I really have much else to add. We could write something down. The wife's nuts, though. I mean, I get it too. She's dealing with her grief, but she's like, they have sex, and then like 2 days later, she's like, I'm pregnant with a boy, and I can just feel it. Those like little pygmy babies that he crushes with a hammer. Like, what the hell are those? They're little mice, right?
Mice.
Little mice. They're little pink mice babies.
Pygmy babies.
Yeah.
That was awful. I hated that scene. I would hurt him badly.
Yeah.
Perhaps even kill him if I saw somebody do.
His ears do go normal for like a little bit.
They do.
So this is like a stress thing.
Yes.
This is like an anxiety response. So it is after his kid dies then. This is just what his body does when he's stressed.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Bodies can do some crazy stuff when you're stressed, for sure.
Sure can.
Okay.
Next up is Pro-Life, which is John Carpenter's, but I already did it. So when Kaylee and I watch that, we won't be rediscovering. So if you want to know the next episode, I already did it myself, and we'll be back for the next episode. So there you go. Until then, guys.
Bye.
Bye.